One, and wait for recording.
Recording in progress.
Okay, Dan, so you go.
Okay, hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the East Ascension Drainage Meeting, September the 20th, 2021. Ms. Secretary, do you have the roll call?
Yes, sir. We have Terry Cazzo and Mike Mason are absent. You want me to go ahead and do a roll call?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Robert?
Present.
Commissioner Turner? Commissioner Orgeron?
Present.
Commissioner Melanson?
Present.
Commissioner Lawler?
Present.
Commissioner Cazzo? Not here. Commissioner Wagisback?
Present.
Commissioner Cagnolati?
Present.
Commissioner Mason? Chairman Lambert?
Present. And as far as staff, who do we have from staff?
Got Ron Savoy here. Devin in purchasing.
Devin in purchasing?
John Diaz and Parish President.
And Hermina.
Okay, thank y'all for that. Mr. Chase, would you please lead us in the invocation followed by the pledge?
Yes, sir. Loving Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and pray for your guidance in the matter at hand. We ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiastic, and continue to give us a desire to find ways to excel in our work for the people of Ascension Parish. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll move on to Ms. Liz. Would you please read the agenda?
Yes, sir. Approval of agenda. Agenda items will only be considered by a 2/3 vote of the East Ascension Drainage Commission during a virtual meeting per open meetings law, with the exception of those items with the code HSW, Health, Safety, and Welfare of the Public. We have under drainage report, floodplain management plan update by HNTB, and under general business, approval of lowest bid response received for the New River Channel improvements rebid, parish project number EAD 15-004, submitted by Bridging the Gap Solution LLC in the amount of $3,299,285.92, and authorizing Parish President Quintmont to execute any and all contract documents pertaining to the project. Approval to enter into servitude agreement, detailed negotiations with the HOA of Shadows of Manchac subdivision in regards to reworking the retention pond of the subdivision. Approval is for discussion only, and final decision to be brought back to the East Ascension Drainage Board for a vote. Approval to renew master contract for professional services for drainage, engineering, and support services in the amount of $1 million to be shared between the following firms: Ames Group Incorporated, Adura Group LLC, Atlas Technical Consultants, Burt Kleinpeter, CSRS, Evans Graves Engineers, GEC, H. Davis Cole, Hartman Engineering, Infinity Engineering Consultants, McKim and Creed Incorporated, GSA, Meyer Engineers, Professional Engineering Consultants Corporation, and T. Baker Smith. Request approval for East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of site number 17214 in the amount of $225,305.75 for 100% funding from the federal government in accordance with all FEMA regulations at no cost to the parish, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmont to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA and or Patrick Goldsmith, CFO, for financial documents. Request approval for East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of site number 2, 14141 in the amount of $178,088.25 for a 90%, 10% split between the homeowner and the federal government in accordance with all FEMA regulations at no cost to the parish, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmont to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA and or Patrick Goldsmith, CFO, for the financial documents. Request approval for the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of site number 3, 13103 in the amount of $111,125.25 for 90%, 10% split between the homeowner and the federal government in accordance with all FEMA regulations at no cost to the parish, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmont to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA and or Patrick Goldsmith, Chief Financial Officer, for financial documents. Request approval for the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of site number 4, 18233 in the amount of $172,336.30 for a 90%, 10% split between the homeowner and the federal government in accordance with all FEMA regulations at no cost to the parish, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmont to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA and or Patrick Goldsmith, the Chief Financial Officer, for financial documents. Request approval for East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of site number 5, 47416 in the amount of $153,878.55 for a 90%, 10% split between the homeowner and the federal government in accordance with all FEMA regulations at no cost to the parish, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmont to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA and or Patrick Goldsmith, Chief Financial Officer, for financial documents. Request approval for East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of site number 6, 43057 in the amount of $147,096.40 for the 90%, 10% split between the homeowner and the federal government in accordance with all FEMA regulations and at no cost to the parish, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmont to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA and or Patrick Goldsmith, Chief Financial Officer, for financial documents. Request approval for East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of site number 7, 38508 in the amount of $122,285.75 for 90%, 10% split between the homeowner and the federal government in accordance with all FEMA regulations at no cost to the parish, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmore to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA, and/or Patrick Goldsmith, Chief Financial Officer, for financial documents. Request approval for East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of site number 8, 16082, in the amount of $289,693.25 for a 90%, 10% split between the homeowner and the federal government in accordance with all FEMA regulations at no cost to the parish, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmore to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA, and/or Patrick Goldsmith, Chief Financial Officer, for financial documents. Approval to renew master task order contract for professional topographic and boundary surveying services in an amount not to exceed $150,000 to be shared between the following firms: BFM Corporation, Brian Hammett and Associates, Earls and Associates, Quality Engineering, and T. Baker Smith. Approval to renew contract for wetlands delineation and permitting services with ELOS Environmental, and to extend the term for 1 additional year. Approval to renew the contract for professional services for design and related services with the Dura Group LLC in support of the Ascension Parish drainage pumping stations in an amount not to exceed $500,000.
Thank you, Ms. Liz.
You're welcome.
With that, does anyone wish to remove any agenda item? If no, we'll vote on the agenda as written. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Malonson.
Second.
We have a second. Okay, with that, we're gonna move for the public. Anyone wishing to make a public comment, you can call the 621-8636 or the participant code 939-496, or you can send an email in. Okay, we'll go into the 15-minute public comment period. John?
It's green, so. Okay. So this is.
Whenever you're ready. 6:30, so whenever you're ready.
Do we have 6:30?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
we received 2 calls. One from Kevin Johnson, in reference to item, approval of, that's not on the agenda though, meeting minutes.
Approval of agenda. Yeah, it's on 4, acceptance of minutes.
Mm-mm. And,
Hello?
and the second one, okay. Okay. Mr. Kevin Johnson.
Hello, this is Kevin Johnson.
Please go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Oh, yeah. I'm here about the recall of Terry Castle. I think Terry Castle, Aaron Lawler,
Go ahead.
and Teddy Ogeron should all be recalled.
Turn it
Who's
on.
next?
Got it.
Who's next?
Next, we have Katrina Bonavolo. Item 7B, the retention pond, Lake at Manchac. That's Shadows at Manchac is the item, I think. Item 7B, Katrina Bonavolo.
Please go ahead, Ms. Katrina.
Miss Katrina Bonavolo.
We got it.
Okay.
Because we had a joker. We got it. Stand by. We're working on it.
Okay.
Ron, do you want to, can we wait and just let her come up on the item or do we need to let her go now?
She's got, we're bringing her back into the meeting now.
Thank you.
They had to reset from that cutoff there, Dempsey. Just give me 1 second. All right, we're coming in.
Hey, ma'am, you still there?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Katrina, please.
Miss Katrina?
yes, I wanted to know for the retention pond, is the parish paying for this, or is the developer paying to have this redone?
Ma'am, that'll be discussed on the item.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that I'm against it if the parish is paying for it, because everybody with a retention pond is going to want the parish to pay to redo them.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
It's noted. And that's all the calls we
Katrina
have.
Bonamolo.
Has left.
You have that, Ms. Liz?
Yes, sir.
Okay, with that, we'll, so we finished with the phone and no emails. With that, we'll go on to number 5, the chairman's report and announcements. I'd just like to give a shout out to all our boaters in our parish. The rivers have been closed a number of times here, and really appreciate everyone working together with that. Any other announcements? Ron, you have anything?
Dipsy, I can just go ahead to the drainage report if you're finished up, but a few comments on the hurricane and different things we had going on through that event. That's about it.
All right, well, with that, we're going to A, approval of agenda. Agenda items will only be considered by 2/3 votes of the East Ascension Drainage Commission during virtual meetings per Opens Meeting Law, with the exceptions of those coded HSW. Health, safety, and welfare of the public. We need a motion and a second.
Motion, Chair.
Second by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Aaron. Any discussion? Not, motion passed. Gonna go on to the drainage report, number 6. Mr. Ron.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the time. Yeah, I just want to first off shout out to the employees of the parish for the efforts given through Ida and Nicholas. Not only the DPW and drainage guys, but you had some pavement guys pitched in. We worked very well with OEP, unified effort across the board. The council was there to support throughout the event. The administration was there to give us the tools we needed. Overall, I think we did a great job of response to that event for the parish and the residents, and really proud of them for all they did. We are having a kind of lessons learned, post-event review, things we can do better, how can we improve, and overall, very, very solid effort there. Some of the guys are still out there this weekend with some of the high levels we've been having at some of the pumping stations, but overall, everything is stable. We're following the debris assessment in off-road channels as you guys approved at the last council meeting. That's going well. We're paralleling that and removing trees out of ditches for as drainage in-house. That's what most of the drainage staff is doing, is getting everything open to flow as much as we can and paralleling the efforts of the assessment at the same time. So we've removed about 140 trees from channels so far in the last week, and we're continuing to do that and paralleling all south with their assessment. Shift over a little bit into the capital projects. Lowridge Levy extension project. We'll be meeting with appraisers on site Wednesday. They're in the process of trying to finalize their appraisals to get us to the final plans and getting closer to bidding that project. So we'll be in the field with them Wednesday. We had a pre-construction meeting with the Fish Bayou project on August the 17th. That same day, a notice to proceed was issued. So Warden Smith is that contractor with that job. I met with them this morning. They are on site. They mobilized their tools and their work trailers, and they're basically setting up shop. And they have submitted shop drawings to McKinnon Creed for review, and that process is underway now. Kimberly Cole would have been here to give you guys this report, but PLD has their board meeting tonight as well, so she had to go to that meeting. Other than that, that pretty much concludes my report, and we'll open it up to HNTV once you guys have any questions or any concerns. We'll let them do a presentation for you guys.
Good job, Ron. Appreciate that. Just hold on before we bring HNTB in. Mr. Travis in? Mr. Joe, you have anything for the drainage report?
Nothing right now.
I just wanted to tell everyone that, with the parish and including to date, they're working hard, and, I know everybody in the parish appreciates that. Keep up the good work, guys.
Mr. Corey?
I haven't anything to ask Ron at this point.
Mr. Aaron? Mr. Dow? Mr. Johnny?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Okay, Ron, with that, if you want to go on to floodplain management.
Parish President has something, Dempsey.
Please, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention that we had the command call about debris at 4:30. We had, due to time constraints, I know a lot of you couldn't make it. We had three council members who were able to attend. We're going to try to do just a real snapshot of that and the questions answered so we can get that to the entire council. I know that as the weeks come in and debris starts lagging, that we'll get a lot of questions. So we'll try to recap that meeting and get all the to the entire council. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, good evening, John.
Great. All right. Not sure if you have the PowerPoint presentation in front of you, but I'm going to go ahead and start out. This is the monthly update for the floodplain management plan. We're still working on an 18-month schedule. I'm going to discuss tasks 2 through 5 mainly. The final task 6 is the actual development of the floodplain management plan. On the third slide, you'll see our 18-month schedule. We are on schedule to hit those targets in the month of September. We are still on track to have the floodplain management plan delivered by August of next year. On the data
Excuse me, Mr. John.
Go ahead.
Hey, Brandon or John, are we going to put the presentation on the screen?
I sent it to you, right? Are you kidding?
Yeah, I mean.
We don't have the presentation, Chase.
Okay.
It's in the package.
Is it, do you have the package with you?
Yeah, I have it. I was more or less talking about, the public.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, it's a pretty important presentation. I was hoping that we'd have the graphics for them to see.
Should have been emailed on Thursday of last week.
I know you have a lot of good information, John. If you want to wait a few minutes, we can move on. I'd love for you to be able to pull that up so the public can see.
I can wait. I can definitely wait.
Hey, Brandon, can I email it to you real quick?
Yes, sir. Please do.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to you now.
Yeah, late time.
Hey, Ron, you there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, we could back up just 1 second with the Lowridge levy appraisal.
Yep.
PLD, how are they discussing this also? I know PLD is going to be involved with this.
Absolutely, that's their contractor that we're meeting in the field.
Sure.
We had met with them early on. This is the final appraisal parcels that they weren't able to reach agreements with, and they actually had to go in the field. We're going to assist them with some all-terrain vehicles to get out there, and this should be the final leg of the appraisal process.
Can you get? If you could get.
I just emailed it to Brandon. He has it, so he should be able to pull it up for us in a few minutes.
Yeah. Give me just a minute.
Okay. All right. So, okay, we just go down one more slide. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that's the 18-month schedule that I was discussing earlier. We're still on track to complete the project by August of next year. Next slide. On the data acquisition, collection and acquisition, we are 100% complete in Bayou Manchac, 100% complete in Henderson Basin too. This is dated by about a week. Currently working in the Marvin Bro Basin. Dewberry is doing, has Fort and Tablada doing the survey. They're about 30% complete. And then we are picking up some additional survey work on the Ridge Road Canal Channel modifications behind Oak Alley Estates, and then also some additional survey at Magnolia Oaks Drive. There was some drainage issues there, so we're picking up some additional. We got that done last week. We're waiting on CSRS to process that. Next slide. Okay, you can skip that one. On the design criteria and methodology, HNTB received comments from FTN. We addressed those comments and submitted the final version on September 15th. We sent that to the entire steering committee and also sent it to the drainage board. So you should all have that. If there's any additional changes to that, we can go ahead and make those changes in the final floodplain management plan. Next slide. Okay, on the modeling status, Bayou Manchac model is about 90% complete. By the time we meet at the next steering committee meeting, we should be able to show you what that Manchac model is starting to look like. Henderson Bayou being done by CE Hydro, that's about 20% complete. Bayou Conway Panama Canal, that's about 20% complete. And then the Marvin Bro system model is about 10% complete, and CSRS is handling that. The risk map status, we're working on a risk map. We're developing templates. That should be done pretty soon too. We'll be able to show you what those risk maps look like in Ascension Parish. Slide. So we have begun to identify the problems, some of the problems that are in Ascension Parish. You know, they're not unique to Ascension Parish. They're tied to our neighboring parishes in EBR and in Naperville. So one of the issues we have is Upper Manchac, Bluff Swamp, and Spanish Lakes encompass 3 parishes, and there's only one way for that water to get out, and that's at Bayou Manchac. Next slide. The sources of the water, well, we've had 3 different events that can put water in this basin. One was backwater flooding from Amite in 16. This past May, 13 inches of rain overwhelmed the system, which was already hot. And then tropical storms. So Hurricane Ida put about 4 feet in the estuary as well. So it caused a tides to rise by about that much. So we know this is all susceptible to those 3 different sources of water. One of the things that we began to look at is on the southern side, the Bluff Swamp, Morgan Swamp, New River conditions. Under high water, when the water gets to be about above 12, water crosses LA 74 and flows toward Morgan Swamp and vice versa. So if Morgan Swamp gets hot, like it was last week, it'll flow north under 74. But when the Bluff Swamp is high, like it was back in May, it'll actually flow towards the New River. We also know that Spanish Lake once had a hydrologic connection to the New River, which is important. If you can see from this satellite imagery, from this LiDAR imagery, Highway 74 essentially is a dam that separates those two basins, the Morgan Swamp and the Bluff River. The Bluff Swamp. Exactly. Some of the other things that we also considered is the amount of travel, the water and the Geismar side, Dutchtown, that drains into the New River just west of the interstate. That water has to travel 18 miles to get to the Marvin Burke pump station. That is a long way to go for that water to get out of that swamp. That's on the very southern end. So one of the things that we're looking at in developing a mitigation strategy is we would like to reconnect Spanish Lake to New River with new box culverts and gates under LA 74. Now the gates are important so we can meter the water or regulate how much water is flowing back and forth. We would like to dig a new channel to the New River. That's on the southern side. We would also like to improve New River from the interstate to a pump station. We are proposing about a 1,200 CFS pump station just in Geismar, where you see that little red peak there, and discharge the water into the Mississippi River. Now, this is not an entirely new concept. There's a facility just like it in Harahan in Jefferson Parish, and it's just about that size, 1,200 CFS, and it discharges 1.5 miles from the river, and it helps that entire area tremendously. It just so happens that in Geismar, there is an old lake, and there's an existing waterway there, which is the New River. And we can take advantage of that terrain and put the pump station right there, about maybe 1,500 feet from the levee in that location. And if you look at that cross section, that profile, we would only, from the New River to that pond is only about 400 feet. So reuniting those two bodies of water would be relatively easy, and we can use the pond to draw water and drain that entire area. So it just happens to be a very nice, neat location in Geismar for a pump station. Next one. How do you regulate the water? No, you don't want to put too much water in a system, but we want to put box culverts with sluice gates. We will be only managing the water levels in Bluff Swamp, Spanish Lakes. And then in addition to, we will put a control structure right where that new canal or the new channel, it's actually where the Ridge Road Canal meets the New River. We will put a control structure there. And if we ever needed to prevent water from heading east towards Gonzales, we could close that control structure there, turn the pumps on, and help all of that entire area of Dutchtown and Geismar. Okay. This is more of an overhead view of what that would look like in that vicinity. So when the Bluff Swamp is not flowing toward New River on the normal conditions and other areas east need capacity, the pump to the Mississippi River can assist with flows in the New River. The project can reduce the amount of water that Marvin Brook Pump Station has to handle. As a bird flies, New River is about 22% of New River is west of the interstate. The remaining part of it is east of the interstate. So if you could imagine removing 22% of those flows, that would help out the Marvin Brook Pump Station tremendously. We would also see improved drainage in the vicinity of Geismar and Dutchtown, and we would also see less impacts to Gonzales and St. Amant. Some other benefits, this would reduce the amount of water that flows from Spanish Lakes and Alligator Bayou into Bayou Manchac on the northern end. That would help EBR, East Baton Rouge Parish, and the upper Bayou Manchac Basin. You wouldn't have all those competing flows. This will also help reduce the water levels in Spanish Lake and help Iberville out. It will put less impact on the city of Gonzales and St. Amant with flood waters being pumped into the Mississippi River and not going through New River. It also has the potential to reduce the amount of water pumped at the Marvin Brook into the Blind River Swamp and help Livingston and St. James Parish as well. So this project, because it encompasses such a broad area, would be eligible for watershed initiative funding. And so I think you guys have seen this slide before. The floodplain management plan will have all those three those three efforts put into one: the data collection, the flood hazard assessment, and the risk mitigation strategies and projects. So that's just one of the big projects we're looking at. As we start to collect more data, we'll start looking at other projects, and our contract states we're going to start with 60 projects and whittle them down to 30. So this is probably one that we're going to take a hard look at. And with that concludes the update, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead. Travis, Mr. Travis.
I don't have any questions right now.
Mr. Joel?
Yes. I do have a question in regards to the pump station going to the Mississippi River. I think it's obviously a great idea. It's something this parish needs. The only thing that concerns me is that it does not, I'd like to see how it coincides with the Sorrento, Conway, Panama pump stations and levees and whatnot. And I'm sure there's ways to incorporate that in there, whether it be a canal to go down to the Gossamer area or not. But I want to make sure that that's studied and make sure that we are also benefited from that pump station going to the Mississippi River as much as possible, because obviously we will be benefited.
Absolutely, yeah. This is all 10,000 feet above the air right now, which is a high level. But when we actually are going to put all this into a model and give a presentation on how that water flows during different conditions. So yeah, we'll have that ready for you guys. It may take a little while, but we do believe that this project will provide an immediate benefit to most of Ascension Parish and the neighboring parishes as well.
Absolutely.
I can answer
I agree with that, but I'd just like to maximize that particular benefit with my area also, because I mean, we're not really affected by the Mockingbird pump so much over here. It's all gravity thing. But go ahead. I'm good. Go ahead, Clint.
So the example of this, obviously in Harrahana it works. We anticipate it working here as well once the engineering is done. But with that, until the Sorrento Surge Protection Project is in place, you cannot put a pumping station at the end of Conway at the Mississippi Levee. But once the surge protection is in place, this type of project could work at the end of Conway where it intersects the Mississippi Levee and do exactly the same thing. So yes, this is a precursor if the Sorrento Surge Protection Project goes through as we all hope.
So I guess the next question is there anything we can do to start looking for grants, federal grants, state grants, or anything to make that following project happen?
I think the low-hanging fruit or the source of funding is the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. As you know, the Louisiana Watershed Initiative exists because of the flooding that occurred in this area. The 16, East Baton Rouge, Iberville, and Ascension were the three hardest hit parishes, including our other neighbors on the other side of the Amy. So I feel like any one of these four entities has a good chance of getting LWI funding for a project like this that can help a lot of people out.
Yeah, Chair, we'd like to come back in the later months and probably do a presentation on the Sorrento Surge Protection Project in that area. That's going to be a total separate funding source as well as a separate project as a whole.
Sure. You finished, Mr. Joe?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Corey?
Yes. Hey, buddy. How are you guys this evening? How are you doing this evening? How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, sir. I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty good for Monday.
Hey, you look pretty good for a Monday, too.
I appreciate that.
One question I have, I know there's been a lot of talk, and I know there's a lot of work being done on Bayou Manchac, and I know we've been having conversations with Congressman Graves' office about the creation of a diversion canal from Bayou Manchac to the Mississippi. Are these two projects going to work hand in hand? Is there going to be any conflicting efforts because of one over the other? You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we've looked at Bayou Manchac in the past. The problem with Bayou Manchac is that it has a lot of, it's a scenic waterway. And then there's a lot of cypress trees that are growing in that bayou. And it's a long route to the run from essentially the interstate along Bayou Manchac back to the river. It's such a long run. It's the cost just to clean it and clear it and make the water backflow that way. It's just very expensive. Cutting through Ascension, right just south of 74 through the Morgan Swamp is actually one of the shorter routes. And geographically, you have the ability to lay out your canal such that you actually can get that water to the pump station and pump it out. So there obviously would be benefits in clearing and snagging some of the areas in the Bayou Manchac just to improve water flows. But in the East Baton Rouge area, the biggest benefit this project will have is that by not putting all that Iberville and Ascension Parish water through the Frog Bayou, through the Alligator Bayou control structure, you have less competing water in East Baton Rouge. So, for instance, if you look at the gauges now, right now, Iberville and Ascension are not draining into Manchac because the structures are closed. It's a high differential. Right now, East Baton Rouge is draining quite well because they're not competing with the water coming from Ascension. So that's one of the things that we have to look at. That benefit, we have to figure out how much flow. And I know from 16, once the cuts were made, the water flowing out of Bayou Fountain was cut in half just because, Iberville and Ascension started draining into that same basin. So we definitely think there is a benefit to EBR by not putting the flows from Iberville and Ascension into the Bayou Manchac.
Okay, but what does that do for those districts that are residing along the Bayou Manchac? We're still going to get all this water from EBR. So there's no plan to protect the northern part of the parish with this effort.
You're talking about on the other side of the interstate as the water flows through Bayou Manchac?
Yes.
Yeah, so like with Cotton Bayou and all those other bayous that drain into Manchac, well, they would benefit as well too, because now you have less water coming from Ascension. Although I will say the benefit, and full disclosure here, the benefit would probably be less during a backwater situation like we had in 16. Because when you have a backwater situation, the water's just coming up. It's not draining out. So, but all that would have to be looked at and, show you exactly what that water doing.
Right, because, and I've been studying this since 2016, and I know HNTB is also contracted out with EBR to benefit their drainage scenarios as well. So what I'm seeing is we want to bypass the opportunity of getting EBR's water away from the southern parishes. And hopefully that what we're going to do is we're going to keep Ascension and Iberville's water from impeding Baton Rouge's ability to flow into us. And I don't see any benefit for Ascension Parish by doing that. I think that's a contradiction in terms as far as, giving advice and strong advice for Ascension Parish residents.
So the purpose of the pump station in the Bluff Swamp, in the Ascension Parish side and the Spanish Lakes, is to regulate the water heights. So for instance, when we had the May event, the water in that swamp was already at about maybe a +8, 8.5 thereabout. So we got 13 inches on top of that. You wound up with 11, 12 feet of water in that swamp. What the pump station will allow us to do is regulate and maintain that water at a much lower elevation. Say for instance, 4, 5 feet. That way, if you get another 13 inches of rain or you get some water from EBR, that swamp will be able to take on the additional water and not flood the people that live along the Bluff Swamp.
And listen, I'm not arguing against protecting the people on Bluff Swamp. I think it's a noble effort that the parish president's trying to push. But the issue I'm talking about are all of the homes that live along Bayou Manchac, all the homes in my district, up in Mr. Lawler's district, up in Mr. Dempsey's district, that are all living, that all have issues with flooding there. And that flooding is being caused by the fact that EBR drains into Ascension Parish. And if we're not going to address that as an issue, then this whole effort is worthless to us. You know, we need to focus on that as well.
Yeah, I do believe that modifications, improvements to Bayou Manchac are going to be necessary. We know that we may, and we're going to have to take a hard look at it. Maybe it's time to put a new bridge at Old Perkins Road, or maybe it just improve, widen that entire corridor from the interstate all the way back to the AB. But you know, once we run the miles, we'll definitely know what the capacity is, and anything we can do to improve that capacity will certainly help that entire area on the northern side of the parish.
Like I said, I've been working with Paul Sawyer with Congressman Graves' office on this particular issue. I highly recommend you give him a call and let's start talking as a unified group what we're going to do to affect the water that's impacting us from EBR. I mean, that's a necessity. I mean, I totally appreciate we're going to get our water away so it doesn't impede our neighbors. That's not my first priority. My first priority is make sure my neighbor's water is not affecting my constituents. And in that effort, we've got to get that water out of Bayou Manchac. Okay? I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you much.
Mr. Aaron.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Are there any other projects that we're looking at right now?
Are there other projects that we're looking at? Yes, yes. One of the things that we're going to start looking at is all the crossings. We know that some of the crossings are going to have to be improved. Once that data collection comes in, we're going to look at all the crossings, and you know, they have to be sized accordingly. They have to be sized properly. And so I suspect that, you know, there's going to be quite a few number of crossings that are going to have to be improved in order to improve flows in those bayous, especially in the upper parts of the parish, or the most populated parts of the parish.
Okay, and I'm sure before we move forward with any of these projects, we're going to get more quantifiable numbers on the benefits to each area, cost, and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. One of the things that we're looking is replacement costs due to inundation. And so that's going to be included in the, when we put together the flood risk zone and the risk maps, we'll be able to provide that to you as well. You'll be able to see what parts of the parish have the highest risk. And then when we'll run a 50, we'll run a 100-year storm model. We'll show the depths of inundation. And if we can make some improvements, then there'll be a cost benefit analysis to perform with that as well.
Okay, and one last thing, and I know we get this quite often from the public that watches this. I want to make sure that they have the right expectations. We're not talking about this being done next year or probably even 5 years from now. This is much longer than that. Like the Sorrento thing is 10 years away. This would be probably 10 years away. Would that be a fair statement?
I think, you know, once we give you the model, and so by this time next year, it'll be done. It'll be done in August of next year. I think there will be some improvements that will be, you know, easy to implement. Say, for instance, you got some old box culverts, or you got, you know, some channel improvements that you can do pretty, you know, pretty easily. I think some of those improvements you will provide benefits right away. Some of those may be bigger projects, like this pump to the river. You know, it's going to be a large project. We have to get permits. We have to work with the Corps of Engineers. So some of those may take a little longer, but you know, I think once we present the data, I think it'll be easy to see that, you know, we'll have all the benefit analysis that you'll need to go after some of these funding sources. But I mean, some of it's going to be easy, some of it's not.
A lot of the crossing stuff will be much easier. I just want to temper expectations. I've gotten calls on it already. People seeing some of this. Oh, we're getting pumps by the river. I'm like, well, that's not going to come next year, 2 years. Probably if we can get it like more like 10 years from now, which is fine. I'm not complaining about it at all. I'm just trying to temper expectations for people that see this and think, oh, we'll have it tomorrow, because unfortunately we don't. Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I just want to, so I'm looking at my notes. I wanted to bring up a few things that we discussed in the steering committee whenever Mr. John gave this presentation to us, and maybe just elaborate a little bit on the elevations, Mr. John. Remember how I asked you? I had some reservations, right? You know, because getting this water from Spanish Lake into New River, how those elevations were going to work. And then you explain like, hey, we're going to go in and we're going to do some upstream and downstream dredging and cleaning and create this structure to get it from Spanish Lake into New River. We'll have this our floodgate system to where if New River can't handle it, it can't handle it. We'll pump New River down, and then once that capacity goes down, we can open these floodgates, drain Spanish Lake into New River. And I don't want to put words in your mouth with this comment either, but I do know we just had preliminary conversation about also exploring the option and talking with the Corps of possibly modifying that High Point Ridge. I think you told me it was around 8 or 9 foot that sits between Spanish Lake and the Bluff Swamp, and seeing if it's feasible with this project, if we could drain some of the Bluff Swamp into the Spanish Lake, into New River whenever conditions call for it. And this is purely my comment, not your comment. And is it possible one day that, I apologize, y'all, I'm at home. There's dogs and kids everywhere. I'm sorry. And it's possible one day, maybe we can use our new Fish Frog Bayou gates, the Iberville flood locks that are there, and potentially at a very slow rate, take some water out of Manchac, send it through the swamp into New River. I don't know if all that's feasible. I know we're 10,000 feet above right now. This is an early idea. You'll have a lot of work to do, but mainly just to get it out, or the message out that y'all are, looking at all possibilities. I do remember it was December 2017, whenever y'all gave the Manchac presentation. It was something like $240 million is what it would cost to pump Manchac to the Mississippi, mainly because of elevations. You'd have to do so much dredging. It was something like 3 million cubic yards of dirt we would have to get out of Manchac and in the pumping station and things like that. So look, and I've been talking to the people on Bluff and on Ridge Road, and they always asking, what are we doing? And so I want to get the message out that we're looking at all possibilities. Unfortunately, none of this moves very fast, but the fact that this has a 5-parish potential to have a 5-parish, positive effect, should move us right up at the forefront for the Louisiana Watershed Initiative, to try to get all, most of, if not all of this funded. So I just wanted to pass those comments along, and I really didn't ask a question, but maybe if you could just explain the elevation real quick from Spanish Lake to New River and exactly how that would work. Thank you, Mr. Don.
So just like any other part of Louisiana, everything drains from the river, away from the river, the Mississippi. And this part of the world, it still does that. So it wants to flow. In that slide that I showed earlier, Highway 74 it's a dam. It separates those two swamps. But when the water gets high enough on the bluff, like it did in May of this year, the water does flow. It's just going to follow the path of least resistance, and it's going to flow under and over Highway 74. As a matter of fact, because that is the lowest spot on Highway 74, and it flows from the Bluff Swamp over 74 into the southern portion of that, and it just sheet flows and it makes its way to Highway 74. In May, when this event occurred, the parish was able to pump down New River. Fortunately, the event did not place a ton of rain in the city of Gonzales, so they were able to drain and pump New River down. And that water just naturally flows. without, just what it does. And actually, we ran a model just last week when Morgan Swamp took a ton of rain, and it was struggling to get across Highway 74. So it just works both ways. The relief in that area is no more than 3 feet, one way or the other. So digging some channels to make sure that we can reverse flow when we turn on the pumps, it's not a totally new concept. What the city of New Orleans does is they have a lot of canals with 0 elevations. Okay, so they pretty much they flatten it out, and you have pump stations on either side. So if you have, if you need to pump water, you can turn this pump on and the water will flow in the direction that the pumps are on. And that's a concept that we're trying to do here. One of the improvements that we would have to make was at the interstate going west along New River. There's a lot of opportunity there to widen it, flatten it out, and make sure that when we do put a pump station at the Mississippi, the water will flow towards Geismar. And we're not talking about a large head differential. We're not talking about pumping the water down from 12 to 0. And that's why I'm calling it a water management plan as opposed to a drainage plan. We're managing water levels at an early stage so we can keep our capacity. I'm talking about draining it from a 6 to a 5, from a 7 to a 5. We want to keep that at a working level so that we don't overwhelm the system. I hope I answered your question.
You finished, Mr. Chase?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dow?
No, I didn't have any questions, Dempsey.
Mr. Johnny?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Just real quick, John. I know you have the the Henderson Bayou, and I think Hartman has the Marty-Burat ditch. You know, just like every other channel out here, you know, with the storms, these channels are full of debris now. And what I'm looking for is the quickest way to get this stuff moving and out. Have you met with any of the other engineers, talking with them since the Ida and Nicholas?
Yeah, we've been in touch with Hartman Engineers and CSRS. CSRS is doing all the data acquisition for us. And in the Henderson Bayou, so the data acquisition is done. Now we're setting up the model. And these models are really cool. I mean, I haven't seen Henderson because it's only 20% complete. But in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to see what it'll show you in Bayou Manchac. And then, so we're working at the top of the parish, working our way down. Henderson is next. I think Henderson's still probably about 2 to 3 months out. But I mean, I know that's it's a critical one because, like you said, you know, those channels get full quickly, and I know things aren't better since the storm. I know the parish is working hard to get contracts to go out there and clean those channels, so we don't, you know, so we can keep the current capacity. But we'll be able to determine what additional capacity you'll need once we get the models developed.
Appreciate that, John. You had anything else? You had anything else to add to your presentation?
No, sir. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Past President, I'm sorry. I can't see any hands being raised, anything. Past President, do you have anything to add to the HNTB
Yes, sir.
update?
So, Councilman Orgeron asked what else was being done. So when this was looked at, they were looked at what the 3 different parishes could do. So us partnering with EBR would be addressing the clearing and snagging from Manchac, as well as some channelization, possibly altering the railroad track trestle, including looking at Perkins Road Bridge. So that is a project for Louisiana Watershed Initiative as well, and improving Manchac to ensure that water gets out there. Currently, it's at elevation 10. It's going to be a while before it gets down. Bluff Swamp is at 6.4. So this is a very scenario that ran real close with March and April, especially in April, where we started getting heightened limits. Obviously, with a 4-foot differential, we can't open the gates or locks. That means that water remains there until Manchac falls. In addition to that, the pumps at Willow Glen is Congressman Garrett Graves and his office is working at that. I think that's when you talk about a channel or a diversion. There's 2 concepts, one being to that system, and that water also draining that as well. And then in addition to our project, that would be essentially the 3 main projects that the Louisiana Watershed are pushing to improve drainage across that entire spectrum. So the Willow Glen and obviously the pumping station at New River, diverting that water while Manchac drops means it drops faster and quicker, and having overall benefit of all the residents along Manchac when we're not contributing more waters there, obviously. In the May flood, what you saw is we were, due to the fact that we were all weighted to the crisis point of elevation 14. And when we got to those points, We then had to do the cut in the road when the waters dropped to acceptable levels, meaning Bluff Swamp was at 11, had to wait to that, and then we cut. So we were contributing so much water at that point in time that increased the delayed time for those elevations to drop in Manchac, therefore causing greater hardship along the residents of Manchac. This ability to manage our system internally and pump those down and creating capacity before we even get to elevations 10, 11 in Bluff Swamp will provide an extra benefit of not adding those or getting to that critical point internally, and therefore benefiting all the residents along Manchac and EBR and Ascension, and add that further protection. So those three projects are crucial in reducing that overall drainage for that entire area. So those were the three main projects that were being looked at under Congressman Garrett Graves and Paul Sawyer. And Councilman Ogeron has a question to ask.
So, Mr. President, actually what I wanted to do is I wanted to thank you for getting on board with this, with all three projects.
Absolutely.
I know we've been at each other's best parts for the better part of the last 6 months. And, you know, I'm glad to see that we're finally working to try to benefit the entire parish, particularly in this stage, those guys up in the northern parts. We really need you to back us on these motions. So I'm glad that you've come on, especially with this Willow Glen, and let's get Bayou Manchac taken care of as soon as possible for the folks up here. So for that, I want to thank you for partnering up with our neighbors and getting at least the first step of that done. Do you have a time? I've been asked numerous times today, do you have any sort of timetable in mind as when we're going to get the boots on the ground to start moving the debris and the trees and whatnot out of Bayou Manchac?
Yeah, so Bayou Manchac is currently permitted, and of course we all know about the scenic byway being lifted. So it should be one of the first because those permits are already done. We have our Aqua Gator system in there this week. So we're doing some maintenance. We've already flown it with the drone and identified things for FEMA and for federal reimbursement, so allowed us to get in there quicker. So Manchac, due to the fact that it is permitted, will be one of the first channels to be cleaned because those permits have already been cleared.
Right. Well, and I appreciate that. I was just, I'll be honest with you. You and I are being looked at very hard right now from the residents between Perkins Road and Bayou Manchac. And so if we can get a more definite timetable as far as when we're going to see the boots on the ground and get the ball rolling, I think that's going to benefit both of us very much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the modeling HNTB is going to do in your district as well as Councilman Lawler's. Lawler's would be in the Charleston area. That is a tremendous issue there that needs to be looked at on a grand scale, as well as your issue. Some of those internal channels are too small, causing backup and flooding in those areas. So that's where that modeling is going to come in, I think, for those two districts. And I think we're all eagerly waiting that those modelings for those areas to problem solve and find solutions for those areas.
Please, please, please have somebody on your team keep me in the loop on the status that's going on so I could pass it down to the HOA presidents in that neighborhood, okay?
John, you heard that? Make sure you stay
point.
As soon as that modeling's able to be done in those two areas, we want to see a presentation of that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, guys. And like I said, if anybody wants to join me with a rake or a shovel, we'll be attacking Bayou Manchac ourselves since the permits have been passed. Okay?
All right.
That's you too, John.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Ron, you have anything you want to finish up with?
No, Vince, I think we covered pretty much everything.
John is finished?
I'm good.
Thank y'all so much for the update.
Councilman Cagnolati has a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that these projects, I know we get them designed, engineered, and shovel ready. That's a great thing, but let's concentrate also on these Corps of Engineers permit. Don't hesitate to call on our legislative delegation, Senators Cassie, Kennedy, and anyone we need to on the representative side to help with these Corps permits. That holds us up quite often. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to go on to number 7, the general business.
Thank y'all.
Davis Cole.
Approval of lowest bid responsive received for the New River Channel improvement. Coming from, is that Mr. Devon?
How you doing, Commissioners?
I think they're coming to you now.
On September 14, 2021, the Purchasing Department received 2 bids for the New River Channel Improvements Rebid 2021. After review, the Purchasing Department and the East Ascension Drainage Department recommends accepting the lowest responsive bid submitted by Bridging the Gap Solutions, LLC, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this project.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Aaron. Second, who's the second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Corey. Any discussion? Any opposition?
I've got some discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Joe?
Now, I'm bringing this up because this is a project that's been held up for months upon months over the bid that we've had before from this exact same company. I want to see if there's any way we can put something in this legislation up front, and if not, then I just want to echo my feeling, and I will stand strongly behind this. The change orders on this project, I believe we need to, as a parish, keep all change orders very minimal, okay? And I think there's 2 ways to do that. One way of doing that is to possibly put a cap on the total accepted bid price. Let's say 5% on whatever their bid is tonight is the cap of change orders that you can make on a particular project. Okay, that's one thing I'd like to see looked at as far as a check and balance. Secondly, I'd like to do payment more so like we do in the private sector. Due to the deals and whatnot we've had as a parish, and not singling this company out because I'm not talking in particular about them, but we've had many contractors not finish their work and run out of money or need more money. So possibly set some benchmarks out there on something as simple as a dredging. Let's say you get paid so much per so many feet that you dredge. So that way we're staying on budget and we're not worried about getting halfway through the job and running out of money. Then we have no choice other than to approve a change. So that's just 2 things I want to put out there. I'm going to support this because I know we have to accept the lowest bid, and I know we need this project and we need to move it forward. But I'm just going to put those couple ideas out there. If anybody else has any comments or anything to add to that, I'm more than.
Thank you, Mr. Joel. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second.
I got a comment, Chair, or a question.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Chase.
I think Mr. Russ might be the one to answer this, but with the company with the bid, they have a bond, right? That kind of protects us in case anything happens.
Yes, sir. They provided a bid bond with their bid.
Okay, good. No, I'm probably not as ecstatic as Mr. Cagnolati there, but I'm really glad it is taking place. But just looking, this is our largest project that this body has actually approved via RFP. So I just want to make sure that we're all checked and balanced there. And I mean, with the change orders, that's up to us. We can deny a change order. I mean, and hold their feet to the fire on the bid and everything. So the only question I had was about the bond. So thank you for that.
MC.
Mr. Lambert.
Go, Mr. Johnny.
Just to add to what Chase is saying, the bond is critical, but we also have in the contract that Mr. Cole, Davis Cole, is going to be our oversight representative on the project. And it's his job to hold the contractor in line, making sure he does what he's supposed to do, and meet benchmarks in the project and give updates and all that kind of stuff. So he'll be monitoring that as well. Am I right, Davis?
That's true. And we'll be counting every single cubic yard of dirt that comes out of the canal, and he's paid based upon the work he actually performs, not on a lump sum basis. So we'll be monitoring that every single day.
Good, good. Thank you. We appreciate progress reports from time to time. Thank you.
Mr. Lambert.
Sure, Mr. Ogeron.
Thank you. Is Mr. Robert around? Jean-Paul Robert around?
He should be online.
So I've got a couple of questions for him regarding how this affects the legal status of the lawsuits that we're involved in regarding this project.
I don't see him online. He said he was going to be. I'm not sure if he had a problem connecting or not. I don't see him online.
He's not here?
Do not.
Yeah, he was having issues earlier. He texted me that. So he was in the dead zone. He was having trouble logging in.
Oh, shoot. These Zoom meetings are horrible. And the concerns I have, I mean, this is the same company we're in litigation with. I think we're at the appellate level with this company. You know, I mean, I was hoping that would make the lawsuits go away and trying to find out the status of that. But does anybody, Mr. Quinmore, do you have any update on that at all?
Yeah, I don't, due to the fact that we did that portion in-house that voided that contract. So, I mean, they could stay in court, but to my knowledge, there's no longer any litigation because that has become null and void. So this new contract is specifically for this portion and this portion only. And so that other part has been null and void due to the fact that this is a whole separate bid and a different scope. Even though it's much the same, it's different.
Okay, so it's a different bid, but it doesn't necessarily get us out of the lawsuit, the appellate court stuff, does it? Or has John Paul told you that we're out of it?
I'm going to have him email the entire board that ruling. From my knowledge, I believe we're out of it due to the fact that we've moved on to a separate bid and that old bid is no longer an issue. But I'll have him send his ruling to the entire board.
Good deal. I appreciate it. Thank you much.
Hey, can I just throw in one comment real quick, Chair?
Sure.
So the explanation that I remember from Mr. Robert was that the previous bid technically was never accepted because of the lawsuit, and it doesn't bind us to anything from the previous bid. I believe that was an email he sent, I don't know, maybe like a month or two ago, something like that. But so, and I'm no lawyer, we all know that, but legally, we never accepted a previous bid because of litigation. And I actually think that the litigation was from the other company, not the one that we're accepting from tonight. I don't know if that matters or whatnot, but that's just my recollection. I tried to pull up the email, but I couldn't. So I just want to throw in that. Thank you.
Chair, I also have additional comment, if you don't mind.
Sure, Mr. President.
I do want to state, like the proposal will need to open those gate valves and pull down Francois and New Whitmore Bro in order to do the dredging. So we'll send out some press releases explaining to the public that they're going to see a dramatic drawdown. In order for us to do that dredging, they need to be aware of that. I know we got a lot of comments last time, so we don't want to throw them off when they drive by a canal and it's drawn down so much, but that will require to be drawn down to do the dredging. So we'll have that drawdown when this project kicks off.
Appreciate it.
One more question, Dempsey.
Sure, Mr. John.
Yeah, Davis and Mr. President, if any idea on the time frame? I know you have to sign the contract and award it and get it finished, Mr. President, but any idea when they're going to mobilize, when we might get started? It'd be a good idea to give the public as much advance notice as possible.
The contractor representative's out in the lobby. I spoke to him at length before we came in here. He's ready to go right away. So I told him we were going to expedite the signature of the contract and get the notice to proceed. I'm open again in a couple of weeks, you know.
As soon as we get the contract.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
He's got his equipment's ready to go. He lives here. It's in his backyard. He's ready to roll.
Okay, with that being said, we have a motion, a second. Motion passed. Going to number B. Thank you. Approval to enter into a servitude agreement. It's Mr. Aaron with Shadows of Man Shack subdivision.
Yes, what this is not a binding contract or anything. This is just to give authorization to the administration to discuss with this subdivision possible servitude issues and how we can help them with some of the problems that they're having. It's just to allow discussions to take place. That's all we're asking for here.
Moved by Mr. Johnny.
And I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Aaron. Discussion?
I've got a couple questions.
Mr. Joe.
I'm going to go ahead and put out my main concern here, and that is the parish paying for work on private property. I guess I want to start off with one question. This is for the administration or anybody with the administration. Do we know how many retention ponds that we have in this parish?
No, I can't say we know how many. I know that very few are dry detention like this. The issue with this particular one is that the way it was done, not only with dry, but the three-weir system, I think there's somewhat of an engineering flaw and a little bit of flaw in the construction. The problem with this one is if it continues to degrade, you not only have problems with possible flooding within the neighborhood, but flooding with adjoining neighbors to this subdivision. So a drainage problem beyond the subdivision, like on McCrory Road. So this is somewhat of a unique situation and an engineering flaw and a
I guess my question is, we have any idea how many retention ponds we have, like to the hundreds, the thousands, what?
No, I don't have a number. I mean, I know.
And that's where I'm coming from with this is, I mean, we're setting a precedent. Yeah, we have special circumstances here, but we've got to be careful. I mean, we're looking at spending a lot of money for an HOA. I think what we need to do is be way more aggressive on the front end. We need to be sure that our ordinance is in place and do the things that we're talking about as far as the monitoring, as far as the inspections, inspection periods. We need to have these builders keep money in escrow for a specific amount of time, and we actually need to do inspections during that time. But I don't feel like it's the parish's place to come in here, and I do feel for the people. I do. But if we set a precedent by spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on HOA's property, then I mean, we don't even know if there's hundreds of retention ponds. We don't even know how many. That could open up Pandora's box.
Yeah, you're talking about, you know, a lot of different subdivisions that are engineered properly and constructed properly. But when you have a particular situation, when you are creating a possible drainage threat due to a project beyond the subdivision perimeter and into adjoiners, you have to look at those considerations. Now you can continue to let this go and have an issue.
Who is the developer of the subdivision?
Class action lawsuit from adjoiners due to the fact that we've known there's an issue. And listen, the engineering who's over here needs to come and plead his case that this needs to be fixed or continues to be a problem.
Who is the developer on this particular project?
What's that?
Who is the developer on this project?
I don't know. I look strictly at the drainage structure. I'm not looking at who's the developer.
And that's what I'm saying. Why don't we look further into this, find out who they are? And I'm sure they try to do business or do business with the parish currently. I mean, there's no reason we can't hold these types of, issues of incorrect work.
This is ultimately the board's decision, however y'all decide.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I see and
voicing my opinion that I don't feel like it's really the parish's place to start this, but thank you.
It's Mayor.
Any other discussion on the retention pond?
Yeah, Chair. I have a question.
Sure.
All right, so we're just voting to give the parish president authority to have preliminary talks.
That's correct.
All right, and the talks are going to. So so this dry detention, we own like the middle 30 feet of it, like from the center, 15 foot each ways. So what exactly are we looking to inherit the entire thing and that become public servitude for us to potentially make an improvements? I'm trying to understand exactly what it is. We're gonna allow the parish president to talk about.
So what you look at is you look at first right of access. How you're going to access it with machinery and then once you do that, you have right of access. All that will provide temporary servitude because we don't want servitude over the entire thing, just like we don't have servitude over any other pond. But with that being said, if you do dredge or dig it and make it wet, if that's one of the proposals the engineer shows, what are you going to do with the dirt? That has to have a plan for that. You got to have that in the scope. If we do it in-house compared to having sub it out to a contractor, that needs to be looked at, the cost analysis of that. So, you got to run through the full scope of what's entailed on a project of this magnitude. And so that's what we'll be outlining is those specifics, those options, and then we'll bring that to the board to make a final decision.
All right. So I guess I'm a little confused on, so we own the middle 30 foot of it.
We have a servitude. We don't own it. It's not fee simple title.
But a servitude.
Drainage servitude through the center.
So we own the 30 foot servitude through the center of it. That's what we can do work on. So if this does come back to the board and we decide to go into there and help these people improve it, how do we use public funds to dig and improve the rest of the pond outside of that 30 foot?
You have the authority to get through the drainage board to go in and do any necessary drainage or anything else within a structure in order to do that. Now, we'll have Jean Paul explain the legalities of all that the next meeting when he don't have a problem logging on. Hopefully we'll be in person. That would be fantastic. But, but Jean Paul will handle all the legalities, but it has been looked at. We do have the authority under the drainage board, at least y'all do, to vote on it and give me the authority to proceed. Y'all are the voting body. So all that will obviously be going through because we're not going to do anything illegal without our attorney saying we're free and clear of liability and we have the right to do so. So all that will be covered.
So what I'm struggling with is how do we go spend potentially $400,000 on private land that we don't have public servitude on? How's that different than come and dig a ditch on my property or another private citizen? That's the part that I'm struggling with here. And I haven't talked to Jean Paul about it yet and all that stuff. So I have a huge concern with that. Sure. And also setting a precedence, for the future. This is issues parish-wide. So, okay, we'll make sure that Jean Paul clears it up. I won't object to you entering into conversations with the HOA. Thank you.
If I may, Dempsey.
Sure.
Yeah, this is really one of the key issues that we have to overcome is just can we even get on their property? Can we reach an agreement with them to get to our servitude? That's the first step. And that's why we need to have these discussions first. We're not approving anything. We're not approving spending any money. We just want to have the discussions with them to see if we can even get that far. I share everybody's concerns about doing work on private property. We do go on private property to dig ditches where we have servitudes. We do all that already. But the key on this is, hey, let's allow the administration to go and talk with these individuals. And I've talked with the homeowner association. They're welcoming the talks. This is just one step. That we're not approving any money. We never do that before going to everybody. Thank you, Dempsey. Chairman.
Appreciate you, Aaron, for clearing that up. Any other discussion on the retention pond? Not motion passed.
I have an objection. You just asked discussion.
Roll call, Ms. Liz.
Commissioner Robert,
No.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Orgeron,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Melanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes, I apologize.
Commissioner Wagisback,
Yes.
Commissioner Cagnolati,
Yes.
and Chairman Lambert.
Yes.
Seven yeas and one nay.
Motion passed. We're gonna move on to C, approval of renewal and master contract with professional service. Mr. Ron?
Yes, guys, this is just a renewal, annual to approve renewal of the master contract professional service for drainage support engineering. Services amount not to exceed $1 million to share.
Motion to move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Johnny, second by Mr. Chase. Discussion, Mr. Ogeron.
Yes, sir. Are we going to vote on this in globo, or are we going to vote on these individually?
We're gonna A through N. This is renewals.
Okay, well, because I have questions regarding the renewal status for McKim and Creed Incorporated.
We'll pull K. You have discussion?
You want me to?
Please go ahead.
Let's go ahead. Well, my understanding is that each of these engineering firms went through a process and were vetted to be put on this list. And paragraph 5 of their contract say that these cannot be assigned. Now, I understand that McKim and Creed bought out GSA. I'm not sure what that contract calls for. If it was a purchase of GSA, if it was a merger, but I think that needs to be analyzed closely to determine whether or not allowing McKim and Creed to step into GSA's shoes is a violation of paragraph 5 of the contract. So I would recommend pulling K from the list until we can get a legal opinion from Mr. Robert to determine that's the case. Obviously, the other 11, 12, whatever there are, engineering firms would have a say in, they would prefer having the list cut from 13 down to 12. And I'd hate for us to get into litigation over something as simple as not knowing if it was a merger or a sale. So that's my 2 cents on the matter. I just, I'm concerned the legality of allowing GSA to assign their rights to McKim and Creed. So I don't know, Ron, would it affect anything if we held them out for a month?
No, I don't see an issue with that. We can bring it back next meeting for that contract alone. We needed to do that. There's no pending task order for that contract at this time.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Cole, you gonna make that in your motion?
I would, yeah, I can amend the motion to request that we pull McKim Creed from this list and give our legal counsel the opportunity to advise us on whether or not this assignment is legal before voting on them again next month.
Do we hear a second?
Okay. Fails for a second.
The original motion? Any objection?
I'm going to have to object, Dempsey, so we can do a roll call.
Roll call, Ms. Liz.
Commissioner Robert,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Orgeron,
Abstain.
Commissioner Melanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback,
Yes.
Commissioner Cagnolotti,
Yes.
Chairman Lambert.
Yes. The original motion passed. We'll move on to D. Request approval from East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1. This is for Site 1. Ms. Irvin?
Request for approval for East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with homeowner for the elevation of Site 1, 17214 in the amount of $225,305.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Corey, second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion? Any opposition? Not,
I have a
motion
question.
passed.
Oh, I have a question.
Question, Mr. Aaron.
Yes. Did we have anybody go out? I've learned a little bit about this today. I got some phone calls on it. Did we have anybody go out to all of these? I'm not going to ask this on each one, and measure the actual square footage and the amount under roof? Are we relying on the homeowner to provide that?
Yes, we had the homeowners to do that, and then when they got award, the contractors will go out there and do the measurement.
The concern I have with that, when the homeowners do that, and I've talked to contractors that do this, generally they just figure out what their square footage of their house is and send that in, and many times they leave out. Did we provide them with instructions how to do it?
Yes, we did. Moving forward, because we had a meeting last week with one of the contractor, and moving forward in our next application, we will seek assistance from Ron if he can send one of his engineers to do it before we do the application, so we can get the accurate measurement.
That's exactly what I was getting at. And just so everybody knows, if the homeowner does not include a storage facility that's under roof or a garage that's under roof, when the contractor gets it, they don't have a chance to you don't have change orders in this work, and the contractor really gets the federal government doesn't give them any more money, and they really have to cut their costs and may lose money on it. So it's really incumbent upon us to make sure we're doing this the right way up front.
Yeah, because before we actually go into contract with the homeowners, going into contract with the contractor, they go out there and actually walk the site and verify that the square footage we have is correct.
Okay. That's all I wanted to ask. So we'll be doing that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dempsey?
Sure. John?
Yeah, I just had one question. I noticed on D, it reflects 100% funding, and all the rest of them is 90-10. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, if there's severe repetitive loss property, like the property has had a severe repetitive loss, they are flagged as severe repetitive loss, and under that project, they get 100% funding.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we have a motion second. Motion passed. We'll go to E. This is a request approved for Site 2. Ms. Irvin?
Requesting East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the homeowner for the elevation of Site 2, 14141 in the amount of $178,088.25.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Joe, second by Mr. Johnny. Discussion? Any opposition? Not, motion passed. F. Request for approval, Site 3.
Motion.
Ms. Irvin?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Joe. You have anything you need to add, Ms. Irvin, for number 3, Site 3?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Request for approval for Site 4. Ms. Irvin?
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Dow, second by Mr. Chase. Any opposition? Any discussion? Not, motion passed. H, another request.
Motion.
Approval, 5.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion, any opposition? Not, motion passed. Request approved for approval for Site 6. Mr.
Motion.
Irvin. Motion by Mr. Chase,
Second.
second by Mr. Johnny. Any questions, opposition? If not, motion passed. Request for approval for Site 7. Ms. Irvin?
Motion.
Motion. Second.
Moved by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Aaron. Any discussion? Any opposition? Not, motion passed. All right, approval, request for approval for site 8.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Joel.
I do have one little quick comment. I want to thank Ms. Romana and all of them for helping these 8 homeowners. This is this is my favorite set of motions to run through whenever we do this every year. So, you know, these people who are floating and they're getting up in the air. So good job to you and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chase.
Thank you.
No opposition, motion passed. All right, approval to renew master contract, orders contract, professional. Is that you, Ron? Or?
Yeah, that's fine. It's just a renewal here of the master test order contract, professional topographic and boundary surveys. Not to exceed 150,000 to be shared between the following firms.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. John.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dow. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. And another approval, Mr. Ron?
Same thing here, just annual renewal of the contract for wetland delineation and permitting with Elos Environmental extended to 1-year additional term.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Chase. Second by Mr. Johnny. With no opposition, motion passed. Approval for new contracts.
Motion.
This is Ladura. Ron?
It's just a renewal, same thing, just annual renewal for Aduro Group's
Motion, Chair.
Moved by Mr. Chase.
Second, I got a question.
Second by Mr. Johnny. Question, Mr. Johnny?
Yeah, Ron, would you go into this and explain it? Is this for all pumping stations or is it just Marvin Brewer? I know Ardura does a lot of our work in that regard.
It's for all of our pumping stations, and they're there to support what any engineering needs at the pumping station for as old parts or designs needs and things of that nature with some of the older infrastructure that we have.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, they're one of our more dependable contractors, right?
Absolutely. They're very knowledgeable and a very, very valuable asset.
Very good. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Have a motion second. Discussion already. Any opposition? If not, motion pass.
Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn by Mr.
Second.
Johnny.
Second
by
sir.
Mr. Joel. We adjourn.